5.3 division of polynomials. So we've looked at adding and subtracting. We've looked at multiplying. We did that in a previous chapter with all those things. So now we want to look at dividing and see what all we can do. We have a few different methods based on what we're given, what we're dividing by. So we're going to look at all of those. And I'll try to do my best to explain when you can use certain things and the best way to approach them. Okay. So we just need to jump right into our examples today. So examples here, and we want to divide. Okay, so our first couple we're going to keep real simple here. Even though they're going to look ugly, they're not that difficult of a problem. So we have this trinomial, and we're going to divide it by a monomial, so a single term. So the best way to do this when you're looking at a single term is to simply think about fraction rules where we can give that single term to each one of the single terms on the top. And so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to rewrite this as 24x to the 6 over 6x squared plus 18x to the 5th over 6x squared minus 36x squared over 6x squared. And that way it separates it all out and we can see everything, okay? So we just need to reduce each fraction following our rules. So here we have 24 divided by 6 is 4. Since the big power is on top, it's going to stay with the 4. So 6 minus 2 is x to the 4th. 18 divided by 6 is a positive 3. 5 minus 2 just happens to be a 3 as well. And 36 divided by 6, actually was a negative 36 divided by 6, is a negative 6. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I don't have any x's there on that. Okay? And just like that, I have divided that problem. All right? So let's look at another one of those. So 45y to the 7th minus 20y to the 4th plus 15y squared, all divided by negative 5y to the 4th. So again, because we see that there's just a monomial on bottom, no adding or subtracting, we can separate this out. So we're going to do that. 45y to the 7th over negative 5y to the 4th minus 20y to the 4th over negative 5y to the 4th and plus 15y squared over negative 5y to the 4th. Okay, so here we have 45 divided by negative 5 is a negative 9. 7 minus 4 is y to the 3rd. Negative 20 divided by negative 5 is a positive 4. 4 minus 4 is 0, so we don't have a y. And then positive 15 divided by negative 5 is a negative 3. But we'll notice this time the y that's bigger is on bottom, so my y is going to need to stay on bottom. 4 minus 2 is 2. Right? So we've got to be careful with those things on those. Also, when you're reducing your numbers, we use the same fraction rule. So if my bigger number had been on bottom, my coefficient there would be on the bottom. So we've got to think about those things that we know from our past on reducing fractions for those pieces. Okay, so always keep that in mind. But that is our result. Here we've reduced it as much as we can for these purposes. Okay. All right, so those two are looking at dividing with a monomial. We're not always going to have monomials, so let's look at how we can deal with binomials. Number 3. Now we do typically write these a little bit different. It may look like so. So 10y to the 3rd plus 6y squared minus 9y plus 10 divided by 5y minus 2. Okay. All right, now when we're dividing here on this, we see that it's not a monomial that we're dividing by here. We have two terms. So we can't do the breaking apart thing that we've done before. So we have a couple of options here. One of them is traditional long division, and the other one is synthetic division. Now for synthetic division, even though you don't know what that is yet, we can only do it under certain circumstances. So for synthetic division, we cannot have a number in front or a power up here. If either one of those two things happens, we have to have long division. So since I see a number in front of my y, I must do long division, okay? And so that's what we're gonna do here. So let me rewrite this problem using long division, okay? So if you remember using long division, we have this housetop piece. What we're dividing by goes out in front, and what we're dividing goes inside. Now we do need to make sure all of our powers are shown. So 3, 2, 1, none, they are. If we're missing one, we'll put a 0 in its place. We may see that later on. Okay. Let me go ahead and erase this over here just so that I'm not getting anything interfered. I'm going to need some scratch place. So I want it to have its own piece. All right, so now we're going to use long division, okay? And so we're going to think through how to do that. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take this 10y to the third and divide it by this 5y. Okay, and I'm going to do that to the side here. So 10y to the third divided by 5y, that gives me 2y squared. All right, so I'm going to put that up here on top. And it doesn't matter where you put it, so 2y squared. Now, if we were to go back and think about long division from elementary school, we would take this number on top and we would multiply. 2y squared times 5y is 10y to the third. And we make sure we line the powers up. And then we also have to give it to this other piece because we're multiplying by all of it. So 2y squared times -2 gives me a -4y squared. So I'll make sure I put it under the y squared. Because we are going to be combining like terms through subtraction, because that's what we used to do in long division with just numbers. We subtracted all factors, okay? And we got to be careful with that. So we're doing 10y to the third minus 10y to the third. Well, if we've done our math correctly, that should always cancel out. Make sure the math is done correctly, though. Don't just make it go away because you think it should go away. Now, our next one is 6, positive 6, minus a -4. Well, minus and negative means plus. So really, we're doing 6 plus 4, which is 10y squared. Now, just like in regular long division, these other pieces are going to come down. So -9y plus 10. Okay. And then we start the process all over again. We take our 10y squared and we're going to divide by 5y. So do that to the side. 10y squared divided by 5y. That's going to give me a positive 2y. So plus 2y. All right, 2y times 5y is 10y squared. 2y times -2 is a -4y. And we're going to subtract that off. So 10y squared minus 10y squared does cancel like we want. -9 minus a negative, so plus 4. -9 plus 4 is a -5y. That's horribly written. 5y. And we bring down our plus 10. Well, we do one more. As we can see here that we have -5y divided by 5y. And that's going to give us -1. So -1. All right, well, -1 times 5y is -5y. -1 times -2 positive 2. I'm going to subtract that off. These do cancel. 10 minus 2 is 8. Now, find y is not going to go into 8 because 8 does not have a variable on it. And so that's our remainder. And so we're going to put remainder of 8 on those. Okay? And that's our results. So we're able to work through that using our long division rules from previous times. Okay? So kind of keep those things in mind there. So let's look at one more using long division so that we can do it properly. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I'm not. Never mind. Let me go ahead and write the problem. Sorry for that. I need to go ahead and erase this just for room purposes here. All right, so I'll look at it here. I see an x squared. So because of the power, I have to do long division on those. Again, these two problems, I have to do long division. Our next one, we're going to do a different method, but you can still use long division on it. So I'll talk about that more in a moment. All right, so we're going to set that up. We have our x squared minus 2. Now, again, I need to check my powers. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So we're good. I can put them all in there. If I'm missing one, I would need to put a 0 in its place. So for instance, if this x squared was not here, I would need to put 0x squared in its place because I need placeholders. I need things in case my multiplication needs somewhere to line up with it, okay? So 2x to the 4th minus x to the 3rd minus 5x squared plus x minus 6. All right, so we're going to do this again here. We're going to take this 2x to the 4th and we're going to divide by x squared. Now I'm going to do that over here to this side because I don't have a lot of room on that other side. So I'm going to do that right over here with those. Okay. So on your exam or something, you would just kind of do that to the side or do that at the very bottom of your page there so that it's out of the way, but it's made clean and neat so you can see those. And you don't have to do that part either. If you can look at this and just simply do that division, that's fine as well. 2 divided by 1 is 2. X to the 4th divided by x squared is x squared. So we're going to get 2x squared. So 2x squared times x squared is 2x to the 4th. 2x squared times negative 2. Well, that's a negative 4x squared. So make sure that we line it up over here under the x squared. They have to be like terms to line them up, okay? So make sure you're doing that. Don't just put it next. Put it under its like term or else they don't combine. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Now we're going to subtract those. 2x to the 4th minus 2x to the 4th goes away. Since there's nothing here, this negative x to the 3rd is just going to come down. Negative 5x squared minus negative 4x squared. Well, that's plus. So negative 5 plus 4 is a negative 1x squared. And then we bring down the x in the negative 6. Okay. So now we move to our next one. Negative x to the 3rd divided by x squared. That's going to give me a negative x. So minus x. Negative x times x squared is a negative x to the 3rd. Negative x times negative 2 is a positive 2x. So these cancel. I forgot to put my minus sign there. This one's going to come down. X minus 2x is a negative x. And that 6 is going to come down. That was a square here. Let me make sure I write that properly. All right, so now we're going to take that negative x squared and divide by our x squared. and that equals -1. So -1. So -1 times x squared is a negative x squared. -1 times -2 is a positive 2. And then we're going to subtract that. So those do cancel. We get a negative x. -6 minus 2 is a -8. Now, at this point, we have to see this power, notice it's a 1, is less than this 2. So we can't divide it. Once we get less than this power, we can't divide it anymore. We can also look up here and see that there's nothing going to be smaller than a 1. There's no powers there with them. So we're not going to be able to go any further there as well. So that means this is our remainder. So my remainder is -x minus 8. Okay. So those are the things that you need to look out for when you're doing your long division. So x to the third minus 7x squared is 13x plus 3 divided by x minus 2. All right, so this method here is going to be using synthetic division. And the reason we can use synthetic division is we have this binomial. There's no number in front of the x. There's no power on the x either. So it's just an x plus or minus a number. So when those two things allow us happen, then we have can use synthetic division, okay, for them. So I'm going to write that phrase here to the side, and I'm going to be using synthetic division. Now, you can still use long division. If you like long division and you can do that every time, I would allow you to do that. I don't have a problem there. Even if my instructions say use synthetic division, I will allow for long division in this case because they both are good methods. Now, later on, we're going to be using synthetic division to do some other things in a different unit. So you need to know synthetic division. So my recommendation is to start practicing it now. But if you need to, go ahead and use long division. All right, so for synthetic division, we're going to draw this box. You want to use two lines because we're going to have a lot of numbers up here and below within those, okay? All right, let's look at those numbers first. On this top numbers here, we're going to get that from these coefficients. Now, again, we need to make sure our powers are represented. 3, 2, 1, 0. We have all of our powers, so I'm using the coefficients. This is a 1, a -7, a -13, and a 3. Now, on the outside of this, we're going to look here, and we're going to do the opposite. So that says -2. We're going to put a +2 there for that. Okay? All right, so now we need to start doing some math with this to figure out what's going on. So right down here, we're going to bring this number down. That's always going to happen. We're going to bring that number down every time. And from here on, we're going to multiply and add, multiply and add, multiply and add. Okay? So how we're going to do that? 2 times 1, multiply. 2 times 1 is 2. So that's where I'm putting my line next. 2 times 1 is 2. Then we're going to add these. -7 plus 2. -7 plus 2 is -5. Now we're going to repeat the process we're doing with -5 here. 2 times -5 is -10. Again, 2 times -5 is -10. And we're going to add those. So -13 and -10 is a -23. 2 times -23 is -46. Again, 2 times -23 is -46. And then we put those together and we get -43. Now, this last number down here will always be your remainder. every time. And then from here, we just work our way back up. We have negative 23. This is going to be, so no x. So let me rewrite it this way. This one would not have an x. This is going to be x squared. We would continue on if we had more numbers. But this is how many. So we have 1x squared. Do it like this. Okay, so 1x squared negative 5x minus 23 with a remainder of negative 43. Okay. And that's how we do our math for those. I typically will not write this. So it's okay if you don't write that, if you don't want to confuse yourself. But just remember there that you're going to be working your way. So 0, 1, 2, this is x squared for that. All right. Let's do a couple more of those. X to the third minus 2x squared plus 8 divided by x plus 2. All right, so again, here we have 3, 2. I don't have a 1 power, so we're going to have to keep that in mind. And then 8. So 3, that has a 1, negative 2. But since I did not have an x with just an x or no power, we need to put 0 and then the 8. Okay, so this represents x to the third, x squared, x, and then a number without x. And then we do the opposite there. So negative 2. Right, so following our process, 1 comes down. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Add those. Negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 is a positive 8. 0 plus 8 is 8. Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. 8 plus a negative 16 is a negative 8. So that last one is our remainder. Again, this is 0, 1, 2, so this is x squared minus 4x plus 8, the remainder of negative 8. So you can see, I really do like synthetic division better when I can use it. It's pretty straightforward. We can follow that process, but it is a new process. So be careful with that. All right, let's do one more. And then we'll finish up there. All right, so we got y to the fourth minus 16 divided by y minus 2. So we need to draw out our piece. Here we have a fourth power, the coefficient of 1, but we do not have a third power, 2 power, or a 1 power, and then we have our 16. So again, power of 4, 3, 2, 1, none for that. We do the opposite here, and it's 2. Now, it's not always going to be 2 or negative 2. We can do 3 or 4, whatever number that give you, whether it's just the examples that I have all I choose. All right, so we bring down our 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. And we bring that down. 2 times 8 is 16. We get 16 here. 2 times 16 is 32. And so we subtract those and we get 16 again. Actually, I did all that wrong, didn't I? Let's fix it. Let's see what I did wrong, because I thought something was off there. So what I did wrong was I brought my 1 down and I put a 2, didn't I? So that's a mistake that I made. I was getting too eager to multiply. So we've got to start over there. So I do apologize for that. Sometimes even my brain moves a little too fast And so that's where I need to be able to slow down, pay attention, because I was trying to get through the problem. So my apologies there. Let's go ahead and fix that, rework this problem. So 1 comes down. 2 times 1 is 2. Then we bring those together. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 0 plus 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 0 plus 8 is 8. 2 times 8 is 16. Negative 16 plus 16 is 0. And I did kind of know what the answer was supposed to be, but we should look back and just make sure, did I do that math correctly? It didn't take us long to work that problem. So if we just go back and check that, take a few seconds, it's always going to help with those pieces, okay? So this time we don't have a remainder. Anytime it's 0, it means that we don't have a remainder, which is good for those. So here I've got 0, 1, 2, 3. So this time this is going to represent 1x to the third plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 8 with those. And since my remainder was 0, we don't put remainders of 0, okay? All right, so that's how we work synthetic division. Again, I apologize for that mistake there. That's going to happen from time to time on those, because I am human just like the rest of us, okay? We just try to fix those as soon as we see them as we move forward, all right? So that is division of polynomials. You've got your 3 different styles, so make sure that you're paying attention to what you're given and what you're dividing by so that you use the proper process.